Thank you, Hunter. And to that end, I also told my wife I'll keep my cell phone on in case she needs to give me a call. But it is such a joy to be here with you this morning and to share with you about this transformational ministry that St. Michael and All Angels has been a part of for nearly 2 decades. You have transformed the lives of so many children in Bolivia, and I hope this morning it will be an opportunity for you to get to know them better and to really understand how much personal relationships matter. You know, when I think about what is the most important, what is the most valuable thing for Jesus in the world, it's people. It's absolutely people. It's the relationships that we build with one another each and every day. And we are called to be in friendship with one another. And our founder, Father William Wilson, saw that as a vision for Amistad 3 decades ago. And he founded the mission on 3 principles: friendship with God, friendship with the poor, and friendship with one another. So the fellowship that we're sharing right now in this room is very much an extension of our ministry in Bolivia. And I wanted to just show you a picture of Father William. He actually remains very active in the ministry, but he felt called to Bolivia in particular in the 1980s to live amongst the poorest of the poor. This is a Trappist monk living in a monastery in Iowa, and one missionary from Bolivia came to his monastery and said, you know, we've got this great mission in Bolivia, and Father William had on his heart that, oh, I really want to live amongst the poor. I want to be there in their lives. And the missionary told him, well, come to Bolivia. We've got the best poor in the world here. And that seed that was planted so many years ago has grown exponentially. And I'm so excited to share those results and the continued growth with you this morning. But before we get into all that, I think many of us have been watching the Rio Games, and as Hunter was saying, when I graduated college, I was telling my friends, I'd love to move down to Bolivia and serve. I really feel called to do that. And their response to me was, well, why do you want to move to Africa? So I do find it helpful to have a little geography refresher for some. Perhaps you are not as dull as some of my college friends. But Bolivia is one of 2 landlocked countries in South America. And where we're located, our ministry is in Cochabamba, Bolivia, right in the heart of the country. And the country itself is larger than the state of Texas, but smaller than Alaska, to give you a little bit of a framework, divided up into 9 departments. Bolivia is one of the most geographic and diverse countries in the entire world. The highest altitude international airport is in Bolivia as well. It's a fascinating country, but often gets overlooked. And why is that? Well, because Bolivia is one of the most impoverished countries in the Western Hemisphere. In fact, it is the most impoverished country in South America. The United Nations each year does a Human Development Index, a measure of health, education, and income. And Bolivia has consistently ranked at the bottom for those growth measures. Population-wise, almost 11 million people. But what is so striking is that over 40% of the entire population are children under the age of 18. So when you combine that level of poverty with such a large population of children, it leads to such strained family dynamics, often separation, abandonment of children, left on the streets with no place to go. So where have we stepped in to try to make a difference? Our Amistad Children's Village. This is a place that is unlike any other I've ever visited in my life. And for those in the audience who have visited, I think you can also confirm it is life-changing. The presence of the Holy Spirit is palpable in these children's lives. It's not an orphanage, as you may think, in many sense. This is a children's village. This is not a depressing place, although the children's stories and where they've come from will absolutely break your heart. And our model, our focus, is to raise children in a Christian family environment from infancy all the way through young adulthood, giving them the opportunity to go on to university and technical school. We have 8 houses within our children's village, and Casa Esperanza is the house that St. Michael and All Angels has faithfully sponsored since 1999. These children do not only rely on your friendship, but on your prayers and your visits. It is so important to build relationships. And as I was saying at the very beginning, what is most important to Jesus in the world is people and how we reach out to one another. How we go out of our comfort zones to look in the face of another and see the face of Christ. And that is exactly what we want for the children in our ministry. One of our focuses, unlike any other organization in Cochabamba, of which there are over 40 orphanages in this city of 1 million people, is to unite biological siblings who otherwise would be separated, who would have no interaction with one another. These are children who are often meeting for the first time when they come to Amistad. The unification, the knowledge that you have someone in your life when your parents have left you, when your parents have died, that will walk with you along that journey of growth throughout your life. It's life-changing. So in our children's village, in our 2 youth houses, we have 25 sets of biological siblings. And they've come to us from many different backgrounds, and here are just the faces of a few of them. And I highlight the 2 on the bottom, Ariel and Ronald. When I was living in Bolivia in the summer, it was for a year, and December 21st, after we had our Christmas celebration, one moment that will always stick with me is when the Child Placement Agency came and their representatives had an urgency in their voice saying, "Please, we must speak with someone who can help us. We've been traveling around to orphanages all day. There is no place that can take all 6 brothers that we have. Nowhere. This is the last place we're going, and this is late in the evening. These children have been living on the street for 2 weeks. The oldest 14, the youngest, little Ariel, not even 2 at the time. And their mother was in the hospital dying of cancer. Their father had abandoned them. This was their only hope. And without fail, the mamas came in. These are the primary caretakers of the children. And Theodora said, "We will take these children." Now, she didn't have the authority to do that, to say that, but something in her heart knew that these children had absolutely no other hope. This was it for them. And what was supposed to just be a brief stay until they could find more housing has turned into the last 12 years, 10 years of them growing up in this loving environment, knowing the love of Christ in their hearts, and feeling hope and inspiration for a future. So that is the kind of transformation that happens in this beautiful place. This year we were also blessed to receive the youngest child we'd received in about 8 years, little Carlos. He's the younger biological brother of Alvaro. They also live in that house. And for Carlos, his mother, who suffers from epilepsy, was not going to be able to care for him. She was distraught, not knowing where he would go, with whom he would live. We were the place that would take him, that was able to receive him. And as you'll see as we go on this morning, receiving Carlos now is a commitment on our part for the next 15 to 20 years, if need be, to see him through young adulthood, to give him a hope at a future that never would have been possible otherwise. Our approach to raising children is not just feeding and clothing and providing a roof over their heads. It's a holistic, comprehensive approach to look at the underlying causes of abuse and abandonment, to give them psychological counseling, spiritual education, nourishment, and all that it would entail that we in the States would want for our children. And so I want to just highlight a few of those programs that have been so instrumental in the growth of the ministry in these children's lives, and one that St. Michael has been so powerful in helping us to achieve. And the first is the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd program. This did not even exist in Bolivia until 1999 when Amistad brought it into our children's village. And through the years, and I would love to, I don't want to embarrass anyone, but Emily Given has done so much to support our ministry and to lead this as a partnership between the children here at St. Michael and the children in Bolivia. And one of the greatest gifts, I would say, is when they send down cards or materials for these kids to use, knowing that someone in the U.S., half a world away, who has no reason to care for them, does so, reaches in their heart and says, "You matter. You are important." Now we've expanded this to have a level 1 and a level 2 atrium. 2 years ago, we had a training for catechists in Cochabamba. 50 catechists came from all around the city to train in this program. And it's a hunger that many other parishes have and organizations to spread. So what a beautiful way to share the love of Christ with the children. And another opportunity, I would say, as we talk about going down to Bolivia, I would say the single greatest gift that you can give to these children is to go down personally and let them know that they matter to your life. Give them a hug, let them feel the love of Christ, and I promise you, you will receive that 10, 20, 100 times fold from them. So we have a prayer ministry, and we encourage, this is a purely spiritual relationship where the children will write cards to their prayer friends in the U.S. and receive them back. And I remember living down there, one of the greatest joys was receiving a packet of cards from friends in the U.S., going into one of the houses, and the children jump up and say, "Mi amigo de oración, mi amiga de oración," my prayer friend, my prayer friend. I mean, you thought that you had just come in with a huge wad of cash and you were doling it out. But for them, you cannot understand and fully appreciate how much it means to be loved, to be wanted. Mother Teresa talked about the most terrible poverty is not the poverty of having nothing, but the poverty of feeling unwanted. And that has resonated so much in my life, to understand that for these children to know that they're wanted, to know that they're wrapped in the love of Christ is everything. It gives them hope, it gives them confidence in themselves and a belief in their future. So I want to thank you for lifting them up in prayer. For those of you who are prayer friends, who, if God stirs in your heart to be a prayer friend, please reach out to some of the wonderful leaders here. Maria D'Antoni has been the catalyst for the Prayer Friends program at St. Michael. We wouldn't have a Prayer Friend program if it weren't for her, and so I give continued thanks and appreciation for her service. Another wonderful project that has continued to grow since 2010 is our Via Communal Garden. This is a place where every child, from the youngest to the oldest, spends at least 1 hour a week helping out in the garden. And when we began, we had about 2% of the produce of the fresh vegetables that we were consuming in our 8 casas coming from our Via Communal Garden. Now, during some parts of the year, it's much as 25 or 30% and continues to grow. And keep in mind, this is a country that 8 months out of the year, there are drought-like conditions where there is little or no rainfall. We received a grant from the Episcopal Diocese of Texas to be able to have a well for irrigation for this garden project. And it's more than just the produce that we receive from it. It's the process of teaching the children to care for and love and nurture something that is their own, that has empowered them. And you think about the strength of that as they go on to young adulthood and how important it is. And the harvest and the produce are just simply phenomenal to see. And there is our agronomist, Don Porfirio, who I've never seen one more passionate about agronomy. He will talk your ear off about seed types, crop rotation, enriching the soil. And he also provides another very important component to our ministry, and that's a male presence within these children's lives. Unfortunately, in Bolivia, so oftentimes men are the ones who are abandoning their families, leaving women to care for 4 or 5 children, and the unfortunate situation, the tragic decision of having to decide, I can't care for this child, I have to abandon him. So he has been a wonderful role model and another aspect of our ministry. I'd like to also really focus on Casa Esperanza because this is the casa that you all have supported so faithfully, as I said, for nearly 2 decades. And just last year, our longest tenured Mama Jenny, retired after serving for 19 years at Amistad. We had a special celebration for her. The children gave thanks for her service. And it's not as if she's completely left their lives. She literally lives a stone's throw away from the Via Gate and is always there to say hello or to be a confidant for those children who come to know her as their mother. And we have been incredibly blessed during that transition and through prayer to have Mama Felicidad there on the left, who has stepped into the new role as Mama of Casa Esperanza. To give you a little bit of background about Felicidad, she grew up caring for her sister who has special needs. And that particularly is important as we talk in just a minute about Alison, who is a tremendous miracle that has come out of the love of Mama Jenny and caring for her through many years. These are the children living in Casa Esperanza right now, and they are such joyful, loving friends and supporters for one another too. I don't think we can undervalue the importance of having these deep connections within the Amistad community where they're lifting one another up. Oftentimes they're not biological siblings, but they develop these very intimate bonds that continue to influence their lives for many years to come. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the children because we are so relational, we are so based in friendship that you need to know who these children are. This is just not something where you're supporting this house. You're supporting these individual children. Brenda, who's been at Amistad for the majority of her life, is now a senior in high school. She just moved to the girls' youth house. She'll graduate at the end of this year and plans to go on to university next year. And what an inspiration it is for her as the oldest girl in the house to be the example for the younger ones to follow. Some of Brenda's interests, she's recently taken up guitar lessons. So those who are considering going down, please encourage her to play you a little tune while you're there. And she is so loving with the younger children. She and Jessica have been unbelievable with caring for Alison and her particular needs. Jessica is just turned 15 in June, and in Bolivia, the big celebration is a quinceañera, which is when the girls turn 15, it's almost like what we would do as a sweet 16 party here in the States. So she is now going to be the oldest in the house, and one of her real passions is to learn English. And what the main motivation for her in learning English is so she can communicate with her prayer friends and visitors who come down, to be able to show and express her love for them. I just think how beautiful that is for a girl her age to want to do that. She came to Amistad in 2008, and she came from a rural Quechua environment. Bolivia has the largest indigenous population percentage-wise of any country in South America. Many of the children come to Amistad only speaking Quechua, learning Spanish as a second language, if you can imagine. And that is something that she has continued to blossom. Many of these children didn't have formal education before they came to us. And so when they come to Amistad and have all of the resources around them to reach their full potential, their growth is tremendous and so inspiring. Two of the brothers who are just absolutely dear to so many hearts are Mario and Freddie. I mean, they, although are a year apart, they might as well be twins. They spend so much time together, go to the same school, participate in very similar activities, and are always around looking for a new adventure. Mario particularly, he also loves to play the guitar. He's taking lessons, and Freddie is participating in a soccer team outside of the Via, so that these children also have more exposure to the society and the culture around them. But you see these smiling faces and you see the joy and life in their eyes. It doesn't always start that way. And when Mario came as a little boy, he was barely 2 years old. And he came fearful and scared after having lost so much of the support around him, not having parents to love and care for him. And this picture reminds me of the transformation that happens when these loving mamas step in and give their hearts and their time and their spirits to caring for a child that is on the point of hopelessness, of desperation. And the tears that he shed on those days have now turned into such joy and hopefulness for the future. And I know many of you have walked with him. You have been so faithful and praying for him and Freddie for so many years, and I can't thank you enough for that. I also just want to say here, as we're talking about the children, that there has been one person who has led Amistad so faithfully and has given so much of his heart and time and spirit to this ministry, and we would not be anywhere near where we are today without Dana Jewett. Thank you. Not only has Dana served as our executive director for numerous years, he's gone down to Bolivia more than 20 times and been a light for our organization in dark times. He's led us through difficulties, and he's always done so with such a giving and generous heart. And I think we are all blessed by knowing him. So I thank you, Dana and Kate, Papa Dana, and his many children in Bolivia. Alison. Alison, I think, is for me, one of the miracles to see in the world, that truly believing in the power of God's healing hand. When Alison came to us in 2008, she was 7 months old. She had been severely understimulated. She had been almost never held and just wasting away in a crib because her family had abandoned her. The doctors who told Mama Jenny about her diagnosis that she has very little hope. We don't think she'll ever be able to walk. We don't think she'll ever be able to talk. And Mama Jenny's faith was the turning point in her life. It changed everything for Alison because late at night, after the children would do their homework and be in bed, she would be up with Alison from 10 to 12 to 1 in the morning doing physical therapy, stimulating her muscles. And what Mama Jenny says is, I don't care what the doctors say. I believe in the power of God. And this child will be healthy. One day when I was in the office, Mama Jenny ran in and she said to me, Chris, come quick. You've got to bring your camera. Alison's about to do something so special. And all the way down, in the Via, there's this cobblestone road, all the way down from Casa Esperanza, probably 100 yards from where the office is. There was Alison, walking steadily, slowly, wavering from side to side on her own, and Mama Jenny's hands behind her, never touching her, but just guiding her along. And I just felt like these are the hands and feet of Christ. This is God's work in the world, and we are so blessed to be a part of it. And your friendship, your support has made that possible as dear friends of St. Michael. And I want you to know that Alison today is 9 years old. She is such a beautiful, delightful child, and where she finds her greatest joy is through music. You'll often see every day we have a morning spiritual reflection in our children's village led by one of the houses. And there is Alison standing next to the guitar, dancing and feeling the power of the Holy Spirit. One of her favorite songs is to sing Padre Nuestro, Our Father. And when she starts hearing you sing that song, she joins in. And yes, she does have some significant challenges ahead of her. But to think about where this child would have been had it not been for the love of Mama Jenny to care and give her all of that time and energy, it's unbelievable. So thank you. Thank you for giving Alison and so many others new hope and future in life. The last in Casa Esperanza currently living there is Jesus. Jesus is a fireball of energy. One of his delights is when any amigo gets off the bus from Bolivia, he immediately runs up to grab you and give you a hug and ask you what game you're going to go play. He's so enthusiastic to just share his heart with you. And I think that's what so many people are drawn to about Amistad, is that these children unabashedly give their hearts to you and immediately. There are also those who have grown up in Casa Esperanza from a very young age. Douglas, for instance, he is now a sophomore in high school. Like many boys in Bolivia, he loves to play soccer. And he and Juan, who have grown up together in Casa Esperanza, are now really close in the boys' youth house. Juan's goal is to be a military man. For all Bolivian men, beginning after their graduation from high school, they have to serve in the military for 1 year. Juan would like to make that his future. And you can see he is the older brother of Jessica as well. And to see his blossoming and growth has been such a beautiful, beautiful part of our ministry as well. Wilmer, who is Douglas's older brother and comes back to the youth house on his days off from the barracks, is serving his military term right now. At the end of this year, he will take the college entrance exam and go on to university. Hasmeen as well is working right now. Her future is to go and to study nursing. She has a real affinity for caring and helping those who are in need. And right now her job is to give injections and vaccines throughout the city of Cochabamba. So you can see we're always looking for opportunities for these children to give back and to be a part of their community and training them to get jobs for the future. And I think that is one of the most key elements of our young adult independent life program, is giving them a future where they don't just have a degree, but they have a job. This was the graduation of Wilmer and Hasmeen from last December. And two of the university students who've grown up in Casa Esperanza and now are doing unbelievably well. Liseth, who's 22, she's studying business administration. And Joaquin will graduate this year in sociology. He came to Amistad 24 years ago. He was one of the first to arrive. And you ask Joaquin, one visitor said, what does Amistad mean to you? What is it? And he said, well, I am Amistad. This is my life. This is my family. This is the hope that I've been given. And he is so happy to come back and help out in Casa Esperanza, to be a model, a role model for the younger children, and to give his heart and service. And that's what we always encourage, is for the children to come back, to be there, to stay connected and inspire the younger generations. So I mentioned Father William. Father William has continued to be a wonderful supporter and advocate for Amistad. He lives in Birmingham now. And just this last December, he came back for the 25th anniversary of the founding of the Villa. And there he is on the left in Casa Esperanza, blessing Mama Felicidad, and standing there with Jessica and Brenda in the celebration. To meet him, to meet this deeply spiritual man, is so profound. And for the children and the staff to get to know him has been a huge gift. He's almost a legend in Bolivia, and so to meet him in the flesh has been wonderful. And Father William is also one of the most humble men you will meet. He says that, in founding Amistad, he feels like this little stone that got kicked off the side of a mountain, and it happened to hit another stone, and another, and another. And before long, you had this avalanche of stones of friends of Amistad who have grown into something that he never would have imagined. He wanted to go live amongst the poor. Didn't want to start this wonderful ministry, but that's how God uses us. And I would encourage each one of you to find that seed inside of yourselves. Anything that's holding you back, any doubt that you have in your mind, let God use your gifts and talents to better someone else's life. That is the greatest gift from one to another. Use that every day. Try to find value and add value to someone else's life. Another highlight for all the children each year is the Olympic Games, and it's quite fitting that they would coincide right now. And we held them just last month in the Via. One of the favorite aspects, the events that we have, is the homemade mascot competition. And you can see everything must be recycled. You can't purchase any materials. The minions there, and we had many others in very colorful, decorative costumes. And it is the most anticipated event of the year, where children who've grown up in Amistad bring their families back. The staff is there, and what a joyful reunion it is for them. So I wanted to highlight those aspects of our ministry. So that is our children's village in our youth houses. But that doesn't fully explain the depth of Amistad's ministry, because we know that we can give unbelievable care to the children and who come to us. But one of the real challenges is to get at the root causes of abuse and abandonment that are leading to so many families being separated. And for years, we've prayed about how to make an impact in more lives to help children and families before they get to the point of abandoning their children and losing custody. It's staggering to see in Bolivia, there is more intimate partner violence than any other country in the Americas against women. It's a very male-dominated society where women often feel they don't have a voice. At the same time, there are so many children who are abandoned and not able to go to school and will be stuck in a cycle of poverty and abuse throughout their lives. These are some of the families in our own neighborhood with whom we are working, and you can see the living conditions: adobe homes, often dirt floors, maybe a tarp as the doorway, and little hope for advancement. They're very Spartan living conditions. So in our answer for that is we created a program in 2014 called Amistad for Families. And the whole focus of the program is to keep families together. We work not just with a child, not just with a parent, and not just with the family member who's having a particular problem. We work with every single member of that family, doing home visits, daily tutoring sessions, nutritious meals, parenting classes, psychological evaluations, individual development and life plans for the children to dream about a future. And we also have now started to offer microloans to particularly some of these women who otherwise, if they just had a little bit more, and we're talking $100, $150, this can change their lives. This can help them to provide for their family's own needs. These aren't handouts, and that's important to understand. This is not just giving a man a fish. This is teaching them how to care and raise their children in a healthy living environment. You can see some of the successes that we've already had this year. And the children who come to the center daily are so overjoyed to be here. They're so happy to know that there's an environment where they can share with one another, whereas otherwise, while their parents go off to work, they would oftentimes be locked in the house with several plates of food until the family comes back the next day. So this is a huge aspect of what we're doing now to get at the root causes of abuse and abandonment. And I also want to highlight some more things. We're a little short on time now. But of all of this, one thing I would so encourage you to do, if God puts this on your heart and you feel called to go down, visit Bolivia this October. Go down with a group from St. Michael because it will change your life. Now, if you don't want your life changed, just stay here and it's fine, Don't worry about it. Because I guarantee you will not come back the same person. Here's a few pictures of Hunter playing with the kids and celebrating a Eucharist with Father Gianluca, who is in the adjacent orphanage to Amistad. Your life will be changed. It will better you, and it will certainly affect the way that you see the world. We have a retreat house for all of our visitors, and it has a small chapel in it, as well as the opportunity to get to know Esperanza, who's the caregiver there, and her son Edwin, who prepares all the meals for you. So everything, once you land, is taken care of. You have a bilingual guide and a driver who's around, and if there are any questions of safety or security, I will tell you, I have never felt safer, and we have never had an incident in all of the years of going down with groups. So it is a beautiful and wonderful place to go. I would encourage you to think about that, and we will have more opportunities to talk about this shortly. So I know we're short on time, and I'd love to just turn it over to Hunter to say a few final words.
Thank you, Chris. How about a round?
Thank you.
Then a couple of additional points. He said it's not handouts. You should also know that Amistad does a really thorough job of tracking kids, and if they are not doing what they're supposed to be, there are ramifications. They're held to certain expectations, and so it's not just a get out of jail free card, but the kids are really engaged, especially once they move on to that youth house. And if they're not getting the grades in university, they're given a mandate, like you gotta step up your game kind of thing. So it's a great mission. The biggest thing about this mission trip is it's a pilgrimage. It's a pilgrimage that will change you. If you're looking for a mission trip that is hammers and nails, this ain't it. But this is a mission trip that will change you in the sense of teaching you to really listen for where God is moving and shaping in your life and in the lives of others. So I believe Richard and Maria, we've got some brochures, so maybe if y'all could start passing those out. Just talking about the mission trip that's coming up and details about it, what our schedule will be, how much it costs, that kind of thing. And we'd love for you to consider joining us. If you would like to learn more about Amistad, and because we are a little short on time, we're having a luncheon after the 11 o'clock services in the Coke Activities Room. We'd love for any of you to join us, and there will be more time for Q&A then. That being said, if there are a couple of questions, we can take one or two questions now, if you have any for Chris.
Sure.
Any questions?
Yes.
Can I say something? I think one of the things that really makes me feel good is that 5 or 6 of the largest Episcopal churches in the country are supporting different causes. And so when we go to board meetings in Ponte Vedra or Nashville, where Chris is at Christ Church Cathedral, or Birmingham or Houston at St. Martin's or St. John's, this feeling of Episcopalians joining together to support different causes in the church supporting a particular causa. That's just an additional dimension for me that really help bring some togetherness within our Episcopal community.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make that.
Thank you.
Is there a question? I did.
Oh,
Yes.
There are so many miracles that have happened down there, and there's wonderful stories that go a long time. But one of the greatest is watching what's happened with you in your life. And seeing a young man who came down there in high school as a high schooler with his youth program.
That's it.
And then coming back again, and being moved and coming back at different levels, and then coming back for internships. And,
Thank you.
You're very special.
You are honest.
Thank you.
You are.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
One final point on your calendars. We've already, I think, inked it into the books for next summer. But Lauren Wainwright, our new youth director, will be taking down a portion of our youth group to Bolivia next summer. And so the youth group here at St. Michael will also be going down. You should also know that Amistad Mission is supported through mission and outreach grants and has been for some time now. And so not only does Amistad benefit from our friendship when we go down, they benefit from our friendship financially as well. And that makes a big difference in the life of Amistad Mission. So if we don't have any questions, Chris and I will be hanging out in the hall. If you have something that comes, Emily.
If you're not able to go on the trip, but you do want to be a part of this somehow, there's tables set up outside with everyone's names that you saw today that you can write a card and send a message of love. So please take a moment to go ahead and do that.
And if anyone would like to be a permanent prayer friend, please see me and we will give you a name of a child.
Absolutely.
Our staff member.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming. Let's give Chris one more round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much.